So today we have a great panel, three really interesting individuals. I'm not going to introduce them, I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit. These are all people that, that certainly can explain who they are, what they do, and their role in their current organization. So without further ado, who's got the microphone? There we go. Okay. Now nobody wants to talk.
Hi, I'm Carla Meyer. Thanks for coming. I'm actually head of global social at Logitech out of the Bay Area. So randomly, I work remote here in Kansas City, and I go to San Francisco about every 4 to 6 weeks. Prior to that, I was at Garmin, running global and digital advertising and social there. But now with Logitech, I work across our different brands. We own Logitech, Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Ultimate Ears, and Jaybird, and Ultimate Ears Pro. So I run global strategy for them and all the vendors, agencies, all of that fun stuff for Logitech.
Hey guys, my name is Quinn Sheik, and I am the Director of Demand Generation at DEG, and my responsibility there is to head up our practice area focused around display, search, social, as well as organic search. And my focus really on the social side is specifically in paid social and working alongside our more organic social team to really make sure that our clients' brand voices are represented consistently across both organic and paid social. Excited to talk with you guys today, and I'm glad to be here.
Hello, I'm Katie McCurry. I am a digital strategist with the University of Kansas. I lead social strategy for the university and run all of the main university accounts. I also, which is organic and paid, and then I also head up digital advertising and web analytics. It's a really weird conglomeration of duties, but that's me in a nutshell. I've been up there for 4.5 years.
So let's start from the beginning. For many of us here, we deal with this on a daily basis. Some of us know a lot, some of us know a little bit. Let's talk about, in what context do you recommend boosting something versus using Ad Manager, Power Editor? We put out, just so everybody knows, we put out kind of requests for questions from our membership, so I've got about 10 or so questions here, and we'll have some time for Q&A afterwards if we don't hit one of your questions. So if you just want to talk a little bit about, what gets boosted, what doesn't get boosted, how do you start with organic versus paid, kind of what is your mindset behind that process?
Start us off. Well, my philosophy behind it, and like I say to communicators at KU and to anyone else, like, just because my way works for me and my audience doesn't mean it's going to work for you, so you have to really assess and test. But what I do is paid campaigns are that. They're campaigns. We've spent time, I work closely with marketing communications on our creative, graphics, video, whatnot, and we come up with a plan. And Ad Manager is really for those well thought out campaigns. And then boosted posts is really for your organic content anymore. With the algorithm change, I really have to say you've got to budget for those posts that are just day to day versus the long running campaigns. So use that boost on those days that you are just running organic content. You've got to separate out your budget in that way and be really mindful of that algorithm change. While Facebook changes things, and I am solely talking about Facebook because it's my largest audience and that's where I do a lot of advertising, Instagram as well, but if they change, you've got to be able to pivot. You can't stand in where you've been and say, well, I've been doing it this way, I'm going to continue doing it. You've got to change.
Great. So to add on to that, my thoughts around just general boosted versus more campaign managed in Ads Manager, Power Editor. Really, if you're trying to get something to look and feel very native and seem like a bigger part of the experience within the newsfeed, then I think boosting a post, if your main objective is just to get more eyeballs and to have more native interaction with that audience, is a good strategy. But if you're looking for a really specific outcome, such as somebody to purchase a product, someone to go to a landing page and take a specific action, then that should really be more of a campaigns focused, managed inside of Ads Manager or Power Editor. I have seen some successful pieces that have been done more as kind of like a boosted post as opposed to something managed in Ads Manager, although you can manage boosted posts inside of Ads Manager if you want to have kind of a more structured, thought out campaign and test audiences related to that. I don't know if you guys have ever or have followed The Honest Company. They did a really interesting ad that was a boosted post and felt like a boosted post, but it was promoted. And they did it so that they could test some different sizes of imagery within that newsfeed experience. And the size of imagery that they were testing was a really large image that when you're scrolling through, it took up the entire feed on your mobile device. Which was an interesting tactic. Now you can't click on the image and go to their site like you would be able to with a paid promotion, but they had like a bit.ly that was leading to the landing page to try to drive towards driving revenue, driving product sales. And it was an interesting way to be kind of a thumb-stopping experience, to look like something that is a little bit higher impact and still be kind of that boosted post. So there are some exceptions to that, but overall, if you're trying to get a really specific objective accomplished, doing so in Ads Manager is the better way to go about it.
I think you guys have covered it. Yeah, I definitely agree with exactly what they've said. But I definitely think, when you're considering, you're trying to figure out, is this boosted? Is this, more paid into a campaign? Ask yourself what your objective is, and that will answer your question for you pretty much every single time.
Great.
Can I add just
Yeah.
I don't mean to talk all the time, sorry.
But all of your social media should be very focused on objectives. If you want to consider it organic or paid. I mean, really, all of it should move to paid. It is a media platform, sorry. But every single post should be focused on an objective. If you want people to read or click or do whatever, you've got to do a link post. And you can boost that, or you can have it as a campaign. But everything should be focused on an objective, not a campaign. Anyway, sorry.
That's great. And Kate, this is good because I want to go back to something you said. With the recent change at Facebook, for their feeds to start reflecting more person to person versus business to person, have you guys started thinking about how to change your strategy, and what are some of the thoughts that have gone through your head about the chaos or the excitement that's about to ensue on everybody that's doing jobs like yours?
Yes. As you can imagine, last week was CES, huge announcements, everyone's freaking out, oh my God, it's the end of, Facebook as we know it. So, and randomly, it was funny, I was looking at my feed this weekend, and literally every post was from a publisher or a brand. So I don't know if that's because that's what I look at, but that's what I was being served. So anyways, but absolutely. So, we've definitely broken it down, and we asked ourselves, why is Facebook doing this? I don't think it's been a surprise to anyone. We've seen Facebook moving towards this all along. But I think it's definitely probably the most overt they've been. And for them, it makes sense. They're moving into that TV awareness lane. It's harder for them to compete in performance marketing with a Google and Amazon, right? Like, that is definitely higher intent channels they're converting, right? If you think about the TV budget, it's $500 billion globally. Facebook can now start to eat into that, right? So they move themselves into the awareness lane. So if you think about that, and now, Facebook's saying, we're here for people and to bring you together, right? But they can do advertising better than TV now. They have the reach, and they definitely have better targeting than TV. So it just makes sense. So for us, we're definitely looking at it, from the awareness play and how we're doing it. For us, we're definitely how are influencers going to help us get the content out, because we know Facebook is now going to prioritize content from individuals. And two, I think we have to relook at what our employee advocacy program looks like in social too, because again, Facebook is going to place more priority on people and less on brands. But absolutely, to Katie's earlier point, everything has to look at paid, right? So if you need to do less, do it better, but that should free up those resources to put money behind those posts that you want to reach people. So we're absolutely shifting and already, moving that direction.
Yeah, and I think as, just to kind of build on that, when you're thinking about either trying to get resources for yourself or your team to allocate budget to paid strategy, that piece of news that came out last week is a big, way for you to kind of maybe accomplish that and have a really structured conversation with your boss or whoever allocates those budgets for you to really say, this is the time that we really need to start testing and start pushing our visibility and allocating more of the budget towards paid social. And it's also an opportunity maybe to talk about other ways to get your business seen through social media, through channels like influencer and influencer strategies, where the feed will essentially be favoring those individuals more so than yourself as a business, and the visibility of content that they may be sharing, whether it's promoted or not. So really thinking about how are we going to address this within our organization to get the resources that we need to be visible, and how can we maybe do so through the influencer channel as well.
Agree. I'll just add, the one place that you could have organic content is groups. And those are community focused. They are about the people. You have more of an opportunity to engage with your users. And I would say a dream of mine would be to, and I hope Janelle and Lauren don't kill me for saying this, but I'd love to see our schools and major departments move towards being groups so that it would alleviate them stress of creating posts and being so tight on budgets. I mean, as the main university accounts, we don't have a large budget, so I can assume they have even less. So it would be awesome to have groups for those communities within the main university brand. Anyway, just tonight.
That's great, thank you. Got an interesting question from someone earlier in the week. How do you attribute Facebook ads to sales and conversions on your website? The individual who asked this question wants to know if they need a developer, or where can they find that kind of help, or is there something you just learn and you figure out how to make that happen?
Yeah, I can start. So the Facebook Pixel is going to be your best friend in that instance. If you're not already using the Facebook Pixel and have it placed on your website and conversion tracking set up or revenue tracking set up, that's the first place you should start. Obviously, you can use UTM parameters to track any click tracking through Google Analytics or whatever your analytics platform is, but the value of using the Facebook Pixel is so that you can see, down to the ad level, down to the audience level, what's working, what's not. The Facebook Pixel is also going to show you a lot more data than Google Analytics ever would. So if your boss or your client is asking you, why is the Facebook Pixel reporting so much higher conversion data or so much more revenue than we would see in Google Analytics? The answer to that is they're tracking view-through attribution as opposed to click-through attribution. And if you're not familiar from more the media world, what those two things is if someone sees an ad on Facebook and you have the Facebook Pixel set up on your website, maybe they don't click on that ad, maybe that's not the exact thing that drives them to your website to purchase, but it influences that purchase. And then maybe they go search in Google and click on an organic search result and convert that way. The Facebook Pixel would give you credit for having influenced that conversion. Google Analytics would not, because they don't know that someone saw but didn't click on that ad. So it's always good to have more data than less data. Obviously, it may inflate numbers somewhat, and you may get questions about that, but be prepared to answer those things. And Facebook Pixel is the best way to go to get all of that data and have a more data-rich discussion with your counterparts, your clients.
To answer the developer question, no. If you have an insane domain like ku.edu, sometimes I can't access the main head portion of the website, so I have a workaround to place the pixel, which works great, but sometimes if you work for a larger company, you have to get those developers to help you place it. But how many people are on Squarespace or WordPress? Yeah, so the Pixel has a direct plugin on Ads Manager that you can go through, and it'll click, 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 it'll have you add it. It's super easy. So.
There's also YouTube tutorials.
Oh yeah, and Blueprint.
Yeah, Blueprint. You can YouTube your way through it.
That's a good point. YouTube seems to be the answer for many questions, whether it's social media or otherwise. So let's talk a little bit about the structure of your organizations. you talk a little bit about how big of a team you have? What is the process for putting this content out? Who's involved in it? And how much time out of your day, your week, you schedule does paid advertising take up?
So my team is probably a little bit crazier because we run basically 5 different companies. So we do the hub and spoke model. So myself, my global social team serves as the hub, and then we spoke out to all the different brands who have teams as well. I also have an agency that pretty much serves as my team. There's 2 of us internally on global social, and then I have an agency that's basically like 10 full-time people. So it is a large team, but we happen to use an external agency for that. And then internally we have specialists in the regions, and then each brand team too that I work with that's social. So it's a pretty large organization, but you know, as far as putting the content together, we work a month out at least in content. So for instance, just this last week I approved all the content for February. And so we're always constantly planning and working ahead on daily content at least a month in advance. And then on campaigns, we're typically 3 months out, so that we can have video shoots and yada yada for creative. So it is a large process. I would say I spend a ton of time on content and advertising and planning, and then you know, a large portion on strategy. So I don't know, probably 50% of my time at least.
For myself, paid is about 70% of what I focus on, and then I have a team of 5 folks that are 100% focused on paid. But it runs a broader spectrum of paid social, paid search, display, video, native advertising, and they're really strategists that are focused on bringing all of those things together and being partners with our clients that help them, based on their business objectives, figure out where they should be paying to be visible. Whether it's, is it Facebook or search? Is it Facebook and search? And how do we allocate budgets between the 2 of those? So that's kind of the makeup of my team. Our paid experts are really focused on all paid channels and helping kind of be a client partner from a planning perspective to ensure that our clients are being represented wherever it's going to get them the best return on their budget.
Obviously no nonprofits represented up here. We hear how many people they have. Large staff for a nonprofit. A few more zeros than the average nonprofit. Yeah. Understood, understood. You guys talk a little bit about ad testing. You know, what would you recommend regarding audiences, timing? It's an interesting subject for many reasons, but just your experiences with any type of ad testing you could recommend? Both good and bad, I guess.
You should be doing testing all the time, especially if you don't know your audience exactly, if you don't know what creative is going to work best. And that means simply, if you have set creative, or you have maybe a couple variations of creative, and you're pretty sure of your audience, you've done it before. My work is very cyclical sometimes, admissions ads, that sort of rigmarole. Then you set your audience and you test the creative, which is going to work best. But that means just putting in a small budget and just putting in a very small percentage of time. So not running it for a month. Maybe you want to run the whole campaign for a month. Well, run the small test for a few days for that audience and do, whatever amount of budget makes sense to test that small group. Test different pockets of your audience, different geolocations, whatever is the different segmentations of your audience, test it. The more testing you will do, the more your campaigns will succeed. Because once you find out with that small test group and that small bit of budget, oh hey, they really, really connected with this ad, then you take that ad and you go run with it. Of course, you can always plug in several variations of ads within your whole campaign and test as you go, but I really suggest taking a small amount of budget and running just a really small test for whatever. If you want to test your audience, test your audience. If you want to test creative, test creative.
We typically, as we're launching a new campaign or a new account for one of our clients, we're planning to test in pretty much everything that we do. So, if we have a set budget for a month and we know that this client's objective is really focused on driving high return on ad spend and high revenue from the ads that we're promoting, we will plan to test both audience strategies, so this type of person versus this type of person, and kind of test some assumptions that they may know about their customer from research that they've done, but we don't necessarily know that always rings true through a specific channel or a specific site like Facebook and that network. So we can even help our clients add to their assumptions and their customer research by some of the tests that we're running. And we are always planning on testing creative as well. Even if it's testing a static visual graphic ad versus a carousel ad. Those two types of ads often perform very differently and can do different things for different types of objectives. So we're planning to test in pretty much everything we do.
I agree with both of what you guys said. I think definitely first when you try to figure out what you're testing, again, you're going to hear me say this a few times to know your objective. But definitely if you're trying to test for audience or creative and what that is, and then set those tests up, if you can, always set aside a test and learn budget. That's something I do from the very beginning with whatever budget's given to me. If I can, I set aside a test and learn budget. You will also learn a lot from those, but what's great, if you do it in Ad Manager and you're testing, you can also pick up and place those audiences again, saving you time and effort in the future. So I know, one of the pre-planned questions are probably jumping ahead, but should we learn Ad Manager? Yes, absolutely. Save yourself some time and definitely learn that. So, but you can learn so much from that. And then two, when you have other ads or products or objectives that are similar, you can always go back and look at those test and learn opportunities, take those learnings, and then retest, right? So, and you can create custom audiences off of those people and even test them against new objectives. So, absolutely know what your objective is, but then set up your test from that.
And your point on Ad Manager is great. It kind of leads into my next question. What would you recommend for someone starting out or who's been diving a little bit into this as far as how to learn how to really utilize Ad Manager for all its power? Are there any, aside from the typical you get on YouTube, but are there other resources you could recommend?
If you haven't been, she mentioned it earlier, if you haven't been on Facebook for Business or Facebook Blueprint, they have classes, free classes. Take them, learn them. There's a lot. There's also a lot of just free webinars that will walk through things with different organizations. And so those are very inexpensive ways to get on and look and see what's happening. But there are a ton of YouTube tutorials too, but I definitely recommend Blueprint. Facebook for Business has a lot of stuff. Or just networking, like you have friends who are doing this, look around the room and just call up. I mean, I've done this before with people who don't know how to place ads or don't know how to do Ads Manager, like, hey, do you have 30 minutes? Can you walk me through, your own? Or also, if you're not ready to try it out for your business, do it on your personal page. You probably have something or a friend who sells something, right? Who you can practice with, and it literally just making yourself go through it. You can place ads for, I think, $5 is the minimum, and just try it because it is. You can learn the platform, you can learn how to set it up, and that alone will teach you a ton. Just walking for $5, right?
Yeah, I think I agree with going through a lot of those trainings, but there's also something that you can't replace by just getting a little bit more hands-on and trying it. And what I would say about the Ads Manager experience is it's really geared towards people who it's maybe not their main point of emphasis. Facebook does a pretty decent job of when you start to set up a campaign or when you start to create an ad, asking you, what do you want to achieve? What's your business objective? And giving you ad types that will help you achieve that business objective. Giving a lot more explanation in different parts of Ads Manager. There are those question marks that you can hover over and learn a little bit more about what does this metric mean or what does that metric mean, so that you can be prepared to answer those questions. and to speak to what the campaign's doing and how it's performing. So just get in and get some hands-on experience, like Carla said. It's really there's nothing more valuable than getting in and experiencing it yourself, and then going through those tutorials as you realize that, hey, I need to get a little bit more detail in this area or this area for sure.
You guys answered.
So, how did you guys get so smart? That's not that is the real question. How did you learn what you're doing today? Was it just by getting in and getting dirty? Was it taking classes? Was it a combination? And what options are there out there for continuing education for people at your level as well? That may not have been on the list of questions. But.
From my experience, it was just starting and doing, and our clients had a need, and we had the ability to be their smart friend that has the time to really get in it and help them understand it while testing it with them. As it was new, there was a time 5-6 years ago when nobody knew how to do this, and being some of the folks that were just starting and trying it out, Facebook Ads Manager is so much less glitchy and so much more user-friendly than it was even then. It might have been a little simpler then, but it's really made for people to go in, test some things, play around, and learn yourself, and then having those conversations with your colleagues, with your peers, testing new strategies and spending time in it and talking to other people about it is the best way that I found. Blueprint also didn't exist. It's relatively new, in comparison to other platforms like it in this space. So I haven't gone through all of the trainings. I've sent my team to a lot of them, and they've said that it's been really helpful. But a combo of I think all of those things is what would be most effective.
Read a lot. Be a sponge.
Makes sense. So we've been focusing on Facebook. Are any of you getting involved with Instagram as well? You can talk a little bit about your experience with that. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, we do a lot with Instagram, and we actually do a lot of cross-platform targeting. So if you have been an ads manager and you're only using Facebook, you're missing your Instagram audience. So go ahead, create some customs, and test and learn off of your Instagram audience. Or if you're placing ads on Instagram, bring them over to Facebook and bring them further down the funnel. So absolutely, it's the beautiful thing about the two platforms. They work together. But Instagram as a whole, stories have been great. It's interesting to see that space develop, and especially as they continue to enhance it, or i.e. copy off of Snapchat, how they keep scaling and trying to get people. The great thing about Instagram is they already have the reach, they already have the users, so now it's just training people how to use that tool for their social needs. So we have been placing on Instagram. We definitely do a lot of retargeting off of Instagram. And it's effective as well. The one thing that we're actually launching this week, we're probably a little behind, is shoppable Instagram. So if you are selling, goods and services, and it is easy for you to put your product catalog together, or if you already have a product catalog, link that, and then now, instantly now people can shop on Instagram. So we're using more of that, and then we'll promote those posts as well. So absolutely do that. That kind of gives you a way to link to something to shop, since you can't do that organically on Instagram.
Typically the main thing that we do that might be a little bit different than maybe how you guys are thinking about your Facebook and Instagram strategies right now is we started off just opting into Instagram with a lot of the paid promotions that we were doing, because Facebook pretty easily inside of Ads Manager can automatically resize some of the images that would be featured in Facebook in the kind of larger, more panoramic image format, and copy paste it over to Instagram. What we found was that didn't work as well as being a little bit more specific with the creative that's developed for Instagram. So we always plan to have separate creative developed for Facebook and Instagram that's intended to be sized in that way, so that you get the full benefit of the one-by-one picture in Instagram. Otherwise, if you take the Facebook size picture and put it over into Instagram, you're getting less screen space. So plan for those sizes to be built out separately, And then we also, Facebook will tell you, opt into all of the relative channels across, the audience network, Instagram, Facebook, newsfeed, Facebook right rail, and Facebook will optimize it for you, which is true. But without some more in-depth reporting, you can't visibly see which one is performing better, so you can reallocate budgets or optimize in that way. So we'll typically break them out, and especially break out Facebook targeted campaign versus Instagram targeted campaign, so that we can see at a top level how each one is performing and reallocate budgets. Because we'll typically, most of the time, see Facebook performing stronger than Instagram because of the higher user reach and because of the more kind of direct response nature of those ad formats. However, sometimes Instagram will surprise us and show really strong results, and we can move dollars or move some of our efforts over into that space.
I am glad you said that. Sometimes I work in my own silo and I'm like, I don't know if we're doing what I should be doing. I break them out too. I run my Facebook ad. I run everything in Ad Manager, obviously, but I break out Facebook and I break out Instagram. Different sizing. It just works better for me that way. I will, just to add on, I will say, make sure that you are planning for each channel separately. I've been working with our marketing communications department for a long time, trying to get them out of the mindset, if I'm doing an image for a click-through ad on Facebook, I'll just do the same image on Instagram, and that's really not what you should be doing. And I know that that's difficult if you don't have a lot of creative, resources, but make sure that you're thinking of Instagram as Instagram and planning for that separately. It can be the same campaign, but think about the visual aspect and what people are going to Instagram for.
Excellent, thank you. So this was an interesting question that came to us. Do you guys have a trick or a hack that you either learned by accident, read about, or was shared via colleagues that you would want everyone here to know about? That you can publicly talk about, I should say. Whether it's reporting or what have you.
I mean, we've all said it, but seriously, just the light that shone down on me when I was like, objectives, not doing a photo post and trying to get people to click on links. It's horrible. I love our video team and they do amazing work, but we're not going to get people to apply by running a video. Now, we can step back and say, okay, we can have sort of a jump off and a brand recognition sort of campaign with video. But where does that fall? Do we introduce the campaign with, hey, applications are open, click here, and that drives the traffic, and then follow it up with a retargeting campaign of video to sort of get people to be like, oh yeah, KU, I love the J-Hook. But, I'm just saying, like, sticking to objectives, it's hard at times. There's a lot of bright, shiny objects around us all the time, right? There's always a new channel. Well, not always, but there's always something new. And it's really hard. You're like, oh, I want to try that. But if it doesn't work for your objective, it's not going to work.
So I am a little bit of a data nerd, and probably because I started my career in the search space where there's so much data and you really have to get into Google Analytics and familiarize yourself with all those types of reports to really speak to your clients and your customers. So my favorite pieces of the Facebook Ads Manager and Business Manager that I've picked up, either from just playing around inside of the tool, trying to find answers or talking to colleagues, is Facebook Analytics is kind of similar in experience to Google Analytics, where if you have the Facebook pixel on your site, they can report some really interesting things about the people who are visiting your site from a demographic and audience perspective. So it's really interesting if you're just trying to understand your customers better and you have that Facebook pixel placed on your site, play around within the Facebook Analytics interface. And just try to load some of those reports, get a better insights on age, on interest, on gender, on household income, on all of these various interest and demographic elements that that Google Analytics will report in some ways, but I just feel like Facebook's are so much more in-depth and have such a bigger audience and of people who are saying more specific things about themselves and their interests that makes that data really interesting. One other really tactical thing that our account directors and managers are going crazy over and really wanting to show this to a lot of our clients are the audience overlap reports. And if you haven't played around with that and you're using Facebook audiences to target ads to and you've saved those audiences, so one audience might be people who visited your website. Another audience, if you're trying to retarget people who are a part of your email database, maybe people who you have their email data on that you can upload to Facebook, they'll hash it, anonymize it, and then you can retarget those people with ads. So wouldn't it be interesting if you could see how many of those people are the same person? So look at the overlap of the people who are visiting your website and the people who are on your email database, or the people who are on your email database and the people who are your Facebook fans. What's the intersection of those two, and how do you go conquest where there may be where that overlap may not exist? So within the audience insights, you can kind of like hit each of the check marks of the audiences that you want to compare to one another, and then there's a drop down, and one of the things at the bottom says audience overlap. I send the screenshot to my team and my clients all the time, so I'm like, you've got to look at this, and our brand planners go crazy over that type of data because they don't have access to it. So that would be one that I would recommend getting into and playing around with and talking to some folks about.
So I have two things. First one is there's no perfect answer in what we do, right? So we think we figure it out, and then Facebook changes, right? So don't be afraid. So that's what's so exciting about this is like there's no perfect answer, right? So I had to laugh when you said, how'd you get so smart? I mean, hell, we're trying to figure it out too, right? So, I mean, don't be afraid of it. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of testing and learning and continuing on. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Chances are people at your table or people in small groups or things like that, people that you're networking with, we're all dealing with it. It might be on a different scale, but we're all dealing with it. So don't be afraid to ask questions and network and do all of those things because we're all in the same boat. We might have a different paddle, but we're all in the same boat trying to figure it out. So that is the first thing. Second thing is data. So a lot of us are trying to sell this into our executives, right? We have to remember we live in this daily. Like, it's our passion. We love this crazy shit, right? They don't get it. A lot of people, engineers, whatever, like, you just sit around on Facebook all day. Like, how easy is your job? It's not, right? We know it's crazy. So just if you can break down, to her point, we deal with a ton of data, right? Engineers, other people outside, they love numbers, right? So if you can pull down, just make it your goal every week, every other week, pull down 3 pieces of snackable data that you can share with people outside of your team. You will win friends, and they will line up to come and help you. So especially those of you who are in small organizations, you've got to help educate others. And it's easy to get lost. People will glaze over quickly because we live in it. We know this terminology doesn't mean anything to a lot of other people. So if you can break it down into 3 pieces of snackable data every week, every other week, share it with others, and I promise you, you will start to see some success. And especially for executives. A lot of us are digital natives. Again, we live and breathe this, right? It makes sense to us. Our kids, when they pick up our phone, they totally know how to use it better than I do. But just remember that, it's intimidating to them, so if you can talk to them and bring it down to their level, it will help you in your position, and it will help bring credibility, because you're going to be able, because you have access to all this amazing data, you're going to be able to show them the value of what you're doing and how you are meeting those KPIs for business objectives.
Excellent, thank you. Unfortunately, I got to cut it off there, guys. It's 1 o'clock out of respect for everybody's day. Thank you very much to our panelists today. Have a great rest of the afternoon, a good weekend, and stay warm out there.